Hey guys, what's happening? I figured it's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday night, and wasn't really doing a whole lot this evening. I was gonna probably watch some Netflix, and I figured what better way to use the night than to do a little bit of culling, hang out with some friends. So if you happen to be watching, I know that I'm using StreamYard, and there's been some sort of buggy thing going on with Facebook lately. And the way that it's affecting StreamYard is that Facebook comments aren't being allowed for some reason. I can't post to Facebook groups and whatnot. So I don't know. Something's going on in the metaverse, and no one seems to have control over it. And it's spiraling out of control. I know, you know, my Instagram has been sending random auto responses to people that comment on stories or reels or posts, even during regular hours. It's sending out these auto responses saying, we'll get back to you within our normal hours. It's really, really strange, some of the things that are going on, which is why you shouldn't rely on the tech overlords to help you run your business. I think, one of the things that I've learned in 25 years of social media at this point is that it always sucks, and you're always at the whim and fancy of some engineer somewhere who thinks they know how to do this better than you do. So I've just learned not to rely on it. But all social media stuff aside, I'm glad you're here. If you are here, and you are joining via Facebook and you're watching and you want to comment, the best bet is to just head over to the YouTube channel. It's just at Stone Tree Creative on YouTube, and you can interact with me there. Enter your comments. I'll see them here in StreamYard, and then we can chat. If you're sitting there and you want to participate and you're kind of in that little photographer circle, let me know, and maybe I'll invite you and we can kind of hang out live together. But one of the things that I wanted to do tonight, before I get into culling yesterday's session, was I've been reading this book. When I was out at Portrait Masters at the beginning of September out in Arizona, Chris Orwig, who I really didn't know before, he's a portrait artist based in the West Coast, phenomenal, soulful portraits. I didn't know any of his body of work by name, but I knew some of the images from what I had seen. So when I saw him spoke about authentic portraiture, it was really lining up with where I've been heading with my own career, where I've moved away from a lot of the glamour and the glitz and the flowy dresses and the fan in the hair and all the stuff. And I'm focusing more on what I do really well, which is connecting to people and trying to get that instant connection, that deep, soulful, narrative type story from someone's eyes or facial expression or environment. And I love digging deep like that with people. So authentic portraiture is really resonating with me at the moment. I look at a lot of what Peter Lindbergh has done in the past, and there's always, that's kind of my gold standard, right? It's a lot of people's gold standard, but it's a lot of my gold standard right now of trying to make images that make you want to stare at them for a little while. Not because they're just beautiful, technically perfect images, but because they have some story to them, some gravitas, something that you see in this person's eyes that either makes you feel great or melancholy or stressed out or happy or inquisitive, all of those things that captivate you in an image. That's what I'm trying to create. So I say all that to say this. Got to hang out with Chris out at Portrait Masters for, about 15, 20 minutes. We had a great conversation. He signed his copy of his book, Authentic Portraits. And so I've been reading through it, and really it's a phenomenal book. If anybody wants to try to create images, I mean, what? Just incredible image. But I wanted to sit here and just read a little bit. Now, Chris has no idea that I'm doing any of this. I'm not paid for this. I wasn't asked to do any of this, but some of this really sits at the heart of what I try to do, and I figured I would read it. We'll get into the culling, and you can look at the images from yesterday's session in just a second, but listen to this. So this is chapter 3, The Paradox of Portraiture. So Chris Orwig, Authentic Portraits. This is the book that you need to pick up. And just to prove that I'm not lying, there is right there Chris's autograph. So we're hanging out and having a good conversation. He's just like, hey, do you want a copy of my book? I was like, of course I want a copy of your book. Signed it right there. And it was just pretty rad. He's a really, really nice guy, really cool guy. So anyway, all right. The paradox of portraiture. Authentic portraiture hinges on what, at least at first glance, seems like a contradiction. A good portrait is about who someone is and not what they look like, yet the only way to reveal the subject's essence is through what we see and how they look. Additionally, how someone looks often hides or disguises what lies within. We all wear social armor to protect our inner self, and rightly so, as it's the only way to survive. So much depends on how we look, from first impressions in job interviews to dating and whether or not we trust someone. That's why capturing authenticity is incredibly difficult. And if we're being honest, probably impossible to achieve. I agree with that 100%. But authentic portraiture isn't about creating a perfect portrait. It's about striving to capture something that is more real than fake. The same thing is true in life. We strive for authenticity, even though it's always out of reach. And I found that really, really interesting. The reason we put so much effort into authenticity and at the same time admit it's an unreachable goal is because this paradox is what makes us real. When we honestly accept and admit, even to a small degree, inauthenticity, we become authentic ourselves. It's a strange twist. It's the acceptance and admission of the impossible that allows authenticity on its truest form. Still, the attempt to capture authenticity is incredibly hard. Even harder is being true and authentic yourself. There's the crux. As Ralph Waldo Emerson famously put it, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Holy shit moment right there. Let me read that again. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. That's phenomenal to me. So, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he probably has a career ahead of him. But we all know it's hard to be our true self, but sometimes we forget that the same challenge applies to our subjects too. We forget what it's like to be on the other side of the lens, to have someone else evaluate themselves while we wield a camera that captures every flaw. So part of our job as portrait photographers is to encourage and support that subject in their journey of being him or herself. So I say all of that because this is just a really deep, insightful book about the art of authentic portraits, about connection, about soul, about living in that place with your client that is that safe haven, right? Everybody comes in to get their portraits and they're scared or they're self-conscious or they're nervous or they're anxious, whatever synonym you want to use for freaked the fuck out. That's how most people come in. Rarely does anybody come into my studio and say, you know what, I'm here to rock it and there's nothing you can do to make me nervous. Almost everybody that comes in has some level of anxiety. My job is to help them through that, not cure them of it, not fix it for them, but help them through it while we have our time together. A lot of times that's just connecting through listening, not talking. I mean, I talk nonstop, but being able to listen and truly understand what's being said, listening without waiting to talk, just listening and connecting to your client. That's the real essence of what I'm trying to do. So I say all of that to say, when Laura came in yesterday for her session, there was a lot of nervousness. There was a lot of anxiety. I could tell very clearly she was putting her trust in me in order to help her get some new professional personal branding shots. She's starting a new career or starting a new job in her chosen field, which is marketing, and wanted to come in and get some images to refresh her brand. It's been a long time since she had any headshots done, and she's going through, this new rebirth of herself. And I think it was a perfect time for her to come in and just trust the process. So what I figured I would do is talk about authentic portraiture a little bit, and at the same time be culling and showing you straight out of the camera what I shot yesterday. Now, I have not looked at all of these photos. I looked at one or two just to see, like, hey, did I have my lights on? And you're going to come along culling with me while I go through the process of figuring out what I show to the client at our reveal session next week. Now, Laura, if you happen to be watching, you're going to get a total insight to everything that I'm doing. So hopefully, if there's one person on the planet that's not watching right now, I hope it's Laura. Now, there's no nudity here. There's a straight personal branding. We did 3 outfits. 3 outfit changes, a myriad of backdrops, a myriad of lighting setups. And it probably took us, we started right around 10:45 in the morning, got her into hair and makeup with Stephanie Lyman from Flawless Pros here in Maine, who is out of this world with what she does. When you say true professional, she is an absolute true professional. And the way that she interacted with Laura, the way that she knows her craft, the way that she assisted me without me having to ask was just really, really impressive. So I can't thank Stephanie enough for coming up and helping me with this job. So when Laura came in, we always do a before image, right? This is the pre-hair and makeup. Oh, I was talking about timeline. So 10:45, she got out of makeup and hair around noon. And then it was about an hour 15 minutes for hair and makeup, which is just about standard. And then we did about 2 to 3 hours of shooting. I think we were wrapping up right around 3 o'clock. So that's pretty standard for me. In total, I shot 776 images, which to a lot of people seems like that's a ton of images. It was not a ton of images for me. I tend to shoot in a given session, I can shoot upwards of 2,000 images. Now, I don't mind culling. That's the thing. People are like, how the do you do that? That's a lot of images. It's overshooting. You don't need to do all that. No, I don't. If I wanted someone to come in and follow a procedural way of posing, shot, pose, shot, then yeah, I'd probably escape with 200 photos in an entire session. Almost every one of them would be spot on. It's not how I work. The way that I work is to constantly be connecting with the client in a way that is, to me, authentic, making them laugh, digging into the anxiety, understanding what they're going through, really working hard to make them feel like it's just me and them, and that everything else falls outside of their purview, right? It's my job to take the pictures. It's my job to do the lighting. It's not their job to understand how to pose or what to do. That's my job. So my whole focus is on the client. As we start to talk, I'm still taking photos, sometimes looking through the camera, sometimes not. I've gotten relatively good at shooting from the hip, just basically composing a shot and then triggering and capturing the images that way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you know, that's part of this whole process for me. All right, so what we did, like I always start any of my sessions, we always start with a before shot. And what I'm doing right now, for those of you that are paying real attention, my computer back there is my main computer that's hooked up to my servers and has all of my sessions and everything on it. Please don't come rob my house. And what I'm doing is just connecting there, posting it here so that you can see the entire Lightroom window. When I try to share it from this computer, it blocks out some of the portions of Lightroom, and it wouldn't make any sense for you to watch that. So, okay. My point being, if you're just joining us, Facebook comments aren't working for some reason on StreamYard. So if you want to interact and give me some comments, then head over to the Stone Tree Creative YouTube channel and you can interact there. And we'll just kind of continue this conversation. You know what? And I'm actually just going to make this a banner. So want to interact, head over to the Stone Tree Creative YouTube channel. And we're just going to scroll that across the bottom. And there we go. Okay, cool. So this is the before image, right? So all I did was I took Laura and I put her right against my big garage doors at the studio. And she stood there awkwardly, nervous, laughing, probably freaked out, and I just snapped a couple of shots. So there's one and there's two, right? Easy peasy. So now, why don't I blow this up a little bit for you guys? So as we were starting, she went from here straight into hair and makeup. And I like to capture some behind the scenes of what's going on, and you can see my studio, and part of these are for documenting the entire day. Some of these, if they work out, are for the makeup artist. So that's Stephanie, and Laura's in the chair clearly, and just trying to document a little bit of the behind the scenes. You never know what's going to come of it. A lot of times we're just chatting here and trying to get some moments. And at this point, Stephanie is, I'll blow it up, putting on some lashes, and they were the first time that Laura was wearing lashes, but they looked absolutely phenomenal. Again, Stephanie Lyman in Maine, phenomenal makeup artist. Okay. So that being said, the first setup that I had was, I call it my light tunnel, and it's basically just a V flat up against those big garage doors. So if we look back here, these big garage doors, I'll put a V flat kind of facing those and then put the client inside the V flat just on a stool. And my back is generally pressed right against those garage doors. And I'm shooting, I shoot Fuji, and I'm using the H2S, and I'm using a 35 millimeter. Oh, 35 millimeters is what's on the camera right now. And I'm using a 35 millimeter equivalent for most of what I shoot. Every now and again, I'll go to the 56 millimeter, which on this crop sensor is 85. So think of this like using a 35 millimeter and an 85 millimeter. That's basically what I swap between when I'm doing a portrait shoot. So, okay. So the first setup that I always do to work through posing with clients is I get them into this light tunnel. It's super easy. Natural light is really flattering, and it makes the indoctrination process really, really easy. So we just do a handful of poses. And I mean, coming out of hair and makeup, these are completely unedited, unretouched. These are straight out of camera. So you're going to see all my screw ups, all the mess ups. You're going to see the weird blinks, but that's part of the process, right? There's very few pro photographers that nail every single shot. So for this, part of the light tunnel here is the client and I learning each other. And so as we go through, I will be flagging. What I do in Lightroom is I just hit flag you, and I just flag different images so they can make it to my next round. I'm getting rid of the junk and flagging the good stuff. Sometimes it's easier to do that and then just keep going back and weeding out and weeding out and weeding out. I don't try to do anything but use my gut at this point. So, okay. So this is the very first frame that I shot, clearly overexposed, didn't know what I was doing. I'm in here at 101/160th of a second, f2.0, ISO 640. It was way, way too much. So we started to really reel that in. And work with the light a little bit. So kind of like that. Simple, simple, simple. And the pose, really just trying to get her comfortable with how I want hands to be. We're talking a lot at this point. Again, it's all about trying to make the client relax and be comfortable with how I'm teaching her to pose. And there's a little bit of nervousness. You can see it in her eyes. She's skeptical. She's freaked out. And none of these are super keepers, but there we go. Now we start to get into some actual smiling. You can see it in the eyes. You can see it in the facial muscles when things are authentic. Again, scared. Now, Laura is incredibly sweet. She's wonderfully nice. I kept asking her to try not to smile, and it was damn near impossible for her to not smile. So these initial poses here are, again, not the greatest, and it's not meant to be. This is the warm-up phase. So we were doing this, and we realized that the lip color was a little bit too pink for my liking, for Laura's liking. And that's part of the process. You really don't know how things are going to photograph until you photograph them. So once we started taking these first few shots, I like to use the white because it will show everything cleanly. And if the client feels good about the way that they look, then they're going to be more trusting. They're going to be more natural, more at ease in front of the camera. They don't have to worry about how they look. They know they look beautiful. So after about 10 or 15 shots, I always show the client the back of the camera so that they can get a feel for how they're looking, how things are going to look on camera, and they can make any adjustments as necessary. So what we decided to do was go through, and I actually made her laugh. Look at that. We started to go through and didn't really love the lip color. I love a shot like this where they're just looking out the window. It's a quiet moment. It's variety. It's something different rather than just the standard headshot. Do things like that in your sessions. It will add a certain element to the variety that you show them at the reveal. Okay. So, part of shooting wide, shooting with a lens like a 35 millimeter, is that you really need to watch for distortion. A lot of times you're very close to the client if you're trying to get a close-up portrait rather than using a long lens, 70-200, 85 millimeter, something like that. So, even a portrait like this, which, may or may not be one she ever chooses, I include oftentimes in the reveal because I want them to remember the feeling that they got during their shoot. And this is an authentic smile. This is truly part of who Laura is. Now, she's a beautiful girl. She has this radiant smile, really lights up the room, perfectly white teeth, and beautiful. But she was truly laughing right here. And that to me is everything. I would rather a real laugh with some squinty eyes and a little bit of movement rather than just the perfectly poised smile. Just not my thing. So there we go. Chin down a little bit. So I'll show you the difference, right? So this is a wonderfully nice headshot, very clean, very professional, but that is laughter. That's real. This is beautiful. That's gorgeous. So that to me is the difference in some of these. I'm just going to do a quick check, see who's comments. Brian's here. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Okay. Love that photo. These are okay. Now we start working with the hands. And so as I'm looking at the hands, there's a couple of things that I'm noticing on this image in particular, right? You've got, and I'm going to see if I can't get rid of some of these side things and we can really kind of hone in on the image itself. Let me darken this down. Cool. So what I'm seeing here, you've got this big, bright watch face, and you've got these curled fingers. Now, hands are interesting. When you have a client sitting and they're crossing their hands, right? I would rather be seeing the sides of the hands, but a lot of people, when they do that, start to curl their fingers up, and it takes away from the relaxation of the photo. So the rest of her body's wonderfully relaxed, but she's curling that hand. And I want her to be able to release that. I want her to be a little bit more relaxed, but still nice photo. That'll make it to the next round. That's a little bit happier. Okay. And if you watch the hand, that hand on camera left, watch how it goes from curled to just opening up a little bit more. Very subtle, but these are the things that you look for in an overall personal branding portrait. To me, those are the details that I'm looking for. So at this point, I was asking her about the watch and if it was something that she wanted to leave on. I have no problem if it's an accessory that people like and they want to leave it on, but for me, for this, it was that white face was really glaring and kept catching my eye. If it's catching my eye, it's going to catch someone else's eye. In all of this brightness, if there's something really standing out like that, I try to remove it to bring the focus back to the client's face. So like that, we try different poses. Not everything works. I'm not a super huge fan of this pose, but I'm trying to figure out how her body works. I'm trying to figure out where I can put space with her body. And that's what a lot of this white background type of shooting is for. For me, I'm doing research for the rest of the session. Okay, that is relatively classic, relaxed, beautiful, right out of the camera. And then, oh, that's awesome, Brian. As someone that's been through your process, is a wonderful trip back through the steps you take. Watching it versus being the subject is enlightening. I'm glad. That's what this whole thing is for. So for those of you that are watching that are photographers, hope you're learning something. For those of you that are watching that are clients, hopefully, like Brian, it'll kind of remind you of why I do the things that I do. So, okay, back to this. These are nice. You know, Stephanie was always there. I love these shots. Stephanie was always there fixing, tweaking, and that look right there on Laura is what this whole thing is about. Making people feel good, making people feel relaxed. I love that shot. And immediately, as soon as Stephanie's out of the frame, before that emotion's gone, while that smile is still there, you got to get that shot. This is one that I love. If you look at the way that she's smiling, it's fantastic. And you'll notice, watch her eyes, right? So the eyes right here, you can tell it's a big smile. The entire face is engaged. Everything is working right. And then it's just holding the smile and the eyes relax. And while it's still beautiful, don't get me wrong, it doesn't have the same connection for me as this does with her eyes. Okay. So little bit distorted, a little bit of a lollipop head. I was tilting the camera a little bit differently with that 35mm lens. So not my best photos, and that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I shot a lot yesterday. These are warm-ups. We did a little bit of standing. And what I love to do is give variety to my clients, right? I never know what they're going to like or how they feel. So I try to give them as much variety as possible. And these are all fine and good. Great. Regular headshot. Okay. And, oh, I'm glad, Jessica. That's awesome. Anything I can do. So feel free to ask some questions in here. All right. So as we're going along, I kept trying to ask her, like, all right, close your mouth. It became a funny thing throughout the entire shoot because she's got this big smile like this, and it's beautiful. So trying to get her to close her mouth and not laugh and be serious was damn near impossible. So, okay, let's go. There we go. These are nice. And I love when I get lighting like this. That's a beautiful shot. I don't have to do anything with these prior to the reveal. If I wanted to, I could come in here and very quickly, you know, while I'm here, you can watch it. I'll just crop down a little bit. I don't want to cut her hands out. And there you go. That's great headshot. Straight out of the camera. Don't have to touch anything. Don't have to tweak anything. If I were to edit this, I would smooth out some of the fabric. I'd work on the highlights on her skin a little bit, matte that out. Other than that, there's a couple of flyaways. What else needs to be done, right? So this is the power of understanding what light's doing, understanding posing, moving her elbow away from the body a little bit, positioning her so it's not straight on like a box. It's really important, especially for women, to show that gorgeous figure. Just be able to accentuate some of those. It's a little bit difficult to see in an unstructured jacket like she has on, but just by bringing that shoulder forward, bring one rear, what you're starting to do is create that gorgeous S shape in the body, and that's what I really love. So, okay, so there's a keeper. Let's see what else we got. And I'm going to switch back to this module. Now, the light changed a little bit. We got a little bit cloudy. I was playing with my settings. That's beautiful. And while these are still straight on, I've got a tighter crop. And I wanted something that was going to work so that I could show basically from mid chest up. If she wanted to use something like this for like a LinkedIn headshot, it's wonderfully cut out, and it would be a beautiful silhouette. Not in love with the way that her face is working there. So we switched over to a chair. I love these types of casual, sitting backward, straddling a chair, right? She's in a casual outfit, make it a casual pose, right? I'm not trying to turn her into a cover girl with jeans and a tank top on. But when I'm looking at a shot like this, there's a couple of things I'm paying attention to. There is the hands, clearly, right? We're putting them in front, and what happens when the hands face the camera, you can even see it here as you're watching me. Anything that's closer to the camera is going to be larger, right? So regardless of how far I am away from her, the hands are always going to be bigger than the head, or more prominent when we're shooting like this. So what I try to do is have the client get their head in line in the same plane with the hands so that everything remains proportional. A lot of times that could be just moving your hands from here to here and then leaning forward at the waist a little bit. So what you're doing is you're bringing everything into plane and it stays in proportion. Now, if you're using a different type of lens, like a 70 to 200, let's say, you're going to have a lot more compression there, and you don't have to do as much of that. I shoot wide. I shoot 23 millimeters. I've shot down to 9mm portraits, and they are really, really wide. I'm just going to get back to the comments here for a second. Do I do any wardrobe consultation before the shoot? Yes. So the way that I do my wardrobe consultations is I don't really do a lot over Zoom. Like, I don't spend a lot of time before the session itself. What I do is I explain to the client, they can bring 3, 5, 9, 15, 35 outfits that they want. But I know we're only going to probably have time for 3 or 4. So they can bring as much or as little as they want. I give them an itemized checklist of standard basics to think about: white tank top, blank tank top, white, black, and nude lingerie, or bra and underwear sets, jeans, jackets, trench coats, tank tops, right? All the standard basic outfits. From there, not only can we mix and match like Garanimals in the 1970s, not only can we mix and match a lot of things, but it gives options for putting a jacket on, taking a jacket off. And so when they come into the studio, we go into the dressing room. I have everything hung up on the rack of clothing, where I keep some of my wardrobe, but I don't do a lot of wardrobe with clients. So they put all their stuff up, and we go through and we start feeling out what's their favorite outfit, what do they feel most confident in, what do they like the least, what's the most casual, what's the most dressed up. Not only do I start to get a feel for how we're going to structure the day, but I'm also getting a feel for what backdrops backdrops. I remember my first day with the new mouth. What backdrops I'm going to use, what lighting setups I'm going to use. It really starts to build in my mind how I'm going to structure the entire shoot. Now, knowing that it's personal branding, I already kind of understand what's going to be the end result, the types of photos that I'll be getting. But by seeing the wardrobe, I can now start to coordinate backdrops. I can now start to understand, okay, well, maybe this would lend itself to something more dramatic. This would be more light and airy. So that's the wardrobe consultation that I do, Jessica. I just basically walk through it with them in the studio. And then I want them to wear their least favorite outfit first. The one that they feel is just kind of like, meh, but it's not going to make them feel like Beyonce. The reason I do that is I know I probably won't shoot that outfit all day long, and it gives me a chance to build trust with the client that even with this outfit, we can shoot great photos. But it also gives them a chance to get used to the posing, have something relatively comfortable and casual, but knowing that it might not be their favorite. I love when we can turn that not favorite outfit into some amazing photos. And you'll see some of the stuff that I do here. I love what we shot with this like unstructured padded shoulder jacket, jeans, white tank top. So, all right, back to the show. So as we go through this, I start to work on those hands a little bit, and way overexposed. I was using at this point a 5-foot Octabox, camera right, high, feathered, and pointed down probably about 45 degrees. So you can see that if you look at the highlights and where it's hitting on the face. I have it relatively high. It's a Flashpoint Explorer 600 in a glow 60-inch Octabox, double diffused. So for all the lighting nerds. But as we go through, right, trying to play with the light, really dial it in. I like to shoot a little bit underexposed because I can always bring stuff up. I can always dodge and burn, but I like to shoot a little bit underexposed. So if you're seeing something, you're like, that's kind of flat. Yeah, that's exactly how I shoot. So we start to get here. I have her turning her hands to the side a little bit more, take the emphasis off the frying pan, hands out in front, starting to get in the same plane as the face and the hands. All right. I always play with black and white a little bit. Why not? And trying to be a little bit serious here, and then broaden that smile out. And she's beautiful. But you can see in an underexposed shot like this, how bright that watch is. I kept looking at it. I'm like, you might want to take that off. And so as I started showing her some of the images, like I love this left third composition. That's a natural smile. That's pure laughter. This is a more well-exposed shot, right? We're in a casual environment, seated backward on a chair. Make it casual poses. Not everything has to be formal, right? Like these. And again, when I'm going for variety, I'm shooting different crops, right? All 5 compositions, really close to really wide, to give the client variety at the reveal. The backdrop that I'm using, for those of you that are interested in that, it is the Intuition Backgrounds Highland, which is kind of like this beautiful green and gray. It's meant to be horizontal, but I hang it vertically because I love the gradients between the colors and how it kind of creates this duality in the background. I love that stuff. Now, hands in the face. This is an interesting thing. So when I have people put their hands on their face, a lot of times they try to smush in, or they push really hard and it starts to push their face up, right? I've got kind of this rubbery face. So it can look like you're talking on the phone. It could look like you're picking a zit, something like that. I really try to stay away from that. So hands up by the face. Yeah, I could take it or leave it, but I work with it a little bit because some people nail it, some people don't. It takes a little bit longer. In this, I don't love the fact that you can't see her fingers behind her ear and she's doing this kind of circle thing down here. It's by no means a bad shot. It's just I'm not loving the way that the hand is. Brian says, do you have any short instructional videos with the info you're sharing here that you send to prospective clients? Is the whole process fresh and new to them when they arrive? Really, really good question. For most of what I do, I either cover it in the consultation call, any follow-up emails that I send to them. I always send my clients a studio magazine. I send them a what to expect. There are emails that go out that basically warm them up to the process. Before we ever shoot a frame, I take them through exactly what we're going to be doing. I take them through a full posing 101, what I'm expecting, what to pay attention to, what not to give a shit about. And creating instructional videos like this, hell, maybe I'll use some of this and I'll just cut it up and have that for clients. But the fact of the matter is education, 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 education. The more that you can tell your clients, the better off they're going to be when they're sitting in front of your camera. It really helps them get comfortable and build that trust. All right. So we're going to hide that. And this, there's, oh boy, we've got users that are, man, the bots on YouTube are the worst. Good Lord. All right. Getting back to culling because we're only like 30 photos into 700. All right. Let's start going through these a little bit quicker. And I'm going to take us out of the light box here and start moving a little bit faster. So I'm going to go through. Not everything's a winner. Here I switched to the 56 millimeter lens, which is basically on a full frame, an 85 millimeter equivalent. It's a 56 millimeter 1.2 for the Fuji system that I use. But it's essentially like an 85 millimeter 2.0, I think. I forget the conversion. Still a beautiful lens. Love this portrait lens. It's sharpest lens I've ever used is this Fuji 56 millimeter. And that's saying a lot. So beautiful. Like, so here, right, you've got this kind of weird circle thing going on. But if she drops her hand down, now it's much more natural, much more approachable, which is one of the words that she used when she wanted to be described with these headshots. She wanted approachable, and that's basically what it is, right? So, okay, moving on. I toned down the flash a little bit so that I could have a little bit of underexposure. To where I like to live, about a half a stop or even a full stop underexposed. Give me more of that latitude to play with however I want, if I wanted to get a little bit artsy with it. Gives me the chance to make it a little bit more painterly. In this, again, decent pose. We got one hand in between the legs, one hand just kind of frying pan out front. Not great. The expression is a little bit kind of frozen in place. This is, anything I say is not a reflection on the client herself. It's a failure of my direction to ask her what I want. So if you see anything here or hear me say anything, it is no reflection on Laura. It is all my failure at posing her correctly. All right. So as we do that, there's some stuff in here that works okay. Had her turn a little bit, and we'll pick one of those. Might come back to that later. That's a little bit better. Started making her laugh a bit. Love these in-between moments. That's where you capture the good stuff. That works. I'd love to take, just composite-wise, I'd love to take this bit of Stephanie's hands and put like 8 of them all around her hair. I think that'd look really funny. All right, moving on. Having a professional makeup artist like this that can tend to the little bits of flyaways and freaks and things that hang on the shoulder weird as you're going makes all the difference in the world. Love this shot right here. I changed the lighting setup from being a side lit 60-inch Octa to I swung it around to the left side, put it overhead in kind of a top down Vanity Fair style. I was not doing any sort of fill. This was just that 60-inch Octabox overhead in front, feathered, giving this beautiful wash of light. Now, people with deeper set eyes, this can create a lot of shadows, so you might need to bounce up. And I believe at this point, if I remember correctly, I think it was here, it might have been with another outfit, I have one of those circular fold-out reflectors that I kind of balance on a foot and I hold here and I'm taking shots like this just to bounce some of that light into the lower neck area. So that's what I do there, just to illuminate that a little bit. That's beautiful. And in these, I'm not going to have to do very much to show these in the reveal. For those of you that are just showing up, if you want to head over to the YouTube channel, you can interact with me there. Facebook comments seem to be down. All right. I love the way that these look. Again, these are meant to be shots that she can use for her own social marketing, for resumes, for jobs, for speaking engagements, for social media, just, you know, headshots. I love doing this stuff. Now, I want you to see what I notice here. And I'm notorious for this. I suck at this. And I know it. It's something that I've always done, and I hate it. I'm so focused on the face that I forget about fingertips, and I cut off fingertips all the time. All the time, all the time, all the time. I hate it. I know it. It's a failure of mine to be a good photographer. Shit happens. So I always try to get the fingertips. All right, moving through. But you'll notice it now that I said it. Beautiful natural smile. We'll keep that one. Love the way that these look. And I always flag a few of them, even if the expression is relatively similar, because I never know what the client themselves is going to like. They might like their eyes a little bit wider. They might like the more natural smile. I try to give them enough variety that they can make a choice and not feel forced that this is the only option that they can choose from. All right. We're going to move through this a little bit quicker now. You're getting the hang of how I do this. All right. So we move back down to natural light. We've got another corner in the back of the studio. Natural light window, some diffused drapes, and then just some, beadboard that just a sheet of it that I got at Home Depot and slapped up against the wall to give some sort of interesting background. And here, when you're facing straight on, it's a little bit blocky. But right now I'm just trying to get good soft light on the side of her face. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. I'm going to close this window down so you don't see me looking so far off in the distance. Okay, cool. Again, using that 56 millimeter, just trying to get a nice close-up portrait, asking her to be a little bit more serious, which happened for about 3 seconds before she'd start smiling again. It was just impossible to get her to be serious, and that's perfectly fine by me. Normally, I'm trying hard to make people laugh, but this one I was trying hard to make her serious. And then gazing out the window, it's a little bit of a strange stare, but there we go. And then I just have her bring her eyes back to me. All right. Full body shots. Again, kicking that leg up, because when the leg is down, it just feels a little weird to have your arm dangling right there. So by putting the leg up, it gives your hand a place to sit. A lot of people don't know what to do with their hands. She tucks it behind her. Not a big fan of that. It looks a little bit like it's been amputated. So, while I can crop up to, let's say, mid-chest and get rid of that entirely, it might not work. So I'll keep one of those in there anyway. Again, this is all just about getting the gut reaction to some of these images, what I want to make to the next round. Then I started taking the curtain and throwing it in front of the lens and getting these kind of halfway obscured shots. Just give a little texture. Okay. So next setup that we went to was about 10 feet away from that natural light window. I set up this corner with 2 blue hand-painted backdrops and using a constant light. So we've gone from natural light to strobe to the right, strobe overhead to natural light in the corner, now constant light using an Amaran 200 and an aperture lantern modifier. So this is constant light, not a strobe. And it's daylight balanced, so no bicolor stuff here. And all I wanted to do, there's a shot of it right there. This is the look and feel of this lighting setup. Now, we started in the chair, and I wasn't loving it, to be perfectly honest with you. But you never know what's going to happen. And some of the poses came out great, nice and casual. Love the way that these look. Beautiful smile, really approachable. There it is. That's beautiful. When the eyes get a little bit too wide, it can kind of give you this crazy look. And you always want a little bit of that, kind of natural eye squint, the squinch, as Peter Hurley calls it. All right. These are beautiful. What else we got? But I don't need 400 of the same pose, right? So we'll move through them quickly. And I'm trying different things, trying the light in different positions. I'm raising up, I'm lowering down. I like this. It's a little less happy, and that's fine by me. But I mean, her eyes are just everything in this, and the way that they worked with the blue. Shut up. They're beautiful. All right, let's see what else we got. There we go. Again, that right there, natural smile, beautiful. She's about to sneeze. Sitting forward, not loving this. Man, hands down there holding the front of the stool. I try it. It never works out the way I want it to. And I don't know why I keep trying this pose. It's not very flattering, and I'll be the first to admit that. But you don't know unless you try, unless you fail and try and fail and try and fail. All right. Getting back to this, not every shot is perfect, but I'm starting to get a feel for what the light is doing and loving the way that this constant light looks in this little corner. Adding in a ladder for a little bit of dirty frame, just variety. Again, always trying to mix things up a little bit, make them semi non-traditional headshots. It doesn't have to be your standard corporate smile like a lawyer sort of thing. We're going for approachable, and you can see where this light is in relation to her. And I love that look. Okay. So we'll go through a few more of these. Then I just had her lean against the wall, brought that light just in front a little bit. It's still camera right. It's still feathered. It's high. It's down at an angle. And I fell in love with this look. I really did like the way that the light was working here. Really beautiful. Her coat matched the background perfectly. We switched out of that pink, got her into this blue jacket and this kind of like silk tank top, some black pants, and absolutely crushed it in that outfit. Beautiful, beautiful look. Now, I'll wind up doing a little bit with her skin and a little bit of color grading just for harmony's sake, but there's so little I need to do with this. And that's the important part about getting lighting right. You don't have to do much if you get the lighting right. Now, there's always retouching to do. It's subtle, but I mean, for straight out of the camera, I could give this JPEG in a heartbeat and not have any problem with it. you know, would it be the center of Times Square? No, there would have to be some retouching done. But for regular muggles that need beautiful headshots, I have no problem with a shot like this. That's not hubris. It's just, it is what it is. Beautiful. Love these. Little bit hot on the light, but I can always tone that down a little bit. Beautiful shot right there, left third. Right third, just for variety. Keep, you know, changing the composition. Always be thinking about how she can use some of these photos. If she's using it on a Facebook page, using it as a banner, now you've got negative space for text. You want to do some inspirational quote. You want to put up a sale, something. Start thinking about the negative space and shoot that way so that you don't have to create it in Photoshop. All right. Handful more poses. Love Stephanie's hands in that. This is, you know, I don't like closing off the body language too much, but when you turn to the side and slim out the body, sometimes it's a powerful pose. So I'll do a handful of those. See what else we got. It's nice. I feel like I've done something wrong with that look. That's a nice, powerful look. So I want you to see something here. If you look at her here, her chin is down, the chin's up just a little bit, small. I know something you don't know type of smile. The eyes are more engaged. Down, they're a little bit dead. Up, it's a better look. So it's a very subtle shift, but those are those micro movements that I love to see. Okay. Now we go from there over to the Oliphant backdrop, which is kind of this mottled brown and gold. And here is a 39-inch Rotolux on the Flashpoint 400, I believe is what I was using at the time. Set high, camera left, feathered, pointed down, basically bottoms at the chin, maybe a little bit higher than that. And it's giving this relatively dramatic look. Beautiful, standard type of headshot. You can see how her face isn't as engaged in these. She was trying to hold the smile too long, so I kept telling her, do this, do this. Loosen up the facial muscles, break out of that feel. So as we worked with some of the posing, again, I'm constantly playing with lighting power, constantly trying to create different effects. Some of these are okay, not loving them. And that's perfectly fine. Not everything is going to be a winner. Part of that is what happens in a photo shoot. You work with the client. Sometimes people get tired. I get tired. But I like the way that these are generally looking. I'll pick some of these and add a little bit of variety. And variety is the name of the game. That's what I think. All right, guys, if you're just joining me and you happen to be on Facebook, head over to the YouTube channel if you want to interact. Facebook's acting really funny tonight. But here we are again with the hand on the side of the face, you know, a little bit more pointed. You can understand what she's doing. She's not necessarily on the phone, but don't love hands by the face, but I'll allow it, as a judge would say. And that one, she's laughing a little bit more naturally. It's beautiful. So hopefully you guys are getting something out of this as you watch the process. We're about, I don't know, halfway through the session at this point. Beautiful. Start going a little bit faster. I like that. Faster I can go. If I wasn't connecting to the computer back there, if I wasn't connecting back there, then this would be advancing a little bit faster, but I think you guys can wait the couple of milliseconds. It's going to space, for God's sake. All right. So we'll just kind of keep looking at these. Let's see what else we got. That's nice. Turn down the power of the light a little bit. I'm constantly playing with my settings. I probably shouldn't, but I do. Couple in black and white. Love the look of black and white. I'm shooting in it almost exclusively these days. For some types of personal branding and headshots, you got to show color. But I love shooting in black and white. Love that. There's nothing better. All right. If you guys have seen a favorite yet. Brought her over to back from now the strobes over to natural light, kind of where we shot that original test shot. We're now back at the natural light up by those garage doors and just trying to get a few more images. I love natural light. And the way that she pops off that gold backdrop. There we go. That one I darkened down a little bit. But easy. Just get a good window light, nice diffused window light, and a beautiful smile, and you could do amazing things. These all look great. I love that. Okay. So then we switched up again, and we got her into her third and relatively last outfit, which is kind of like black on black. And so I wanted to shoot against a darker background, classic posing table stuff. And in this, you can see the hands are a little bit too clasped, and that's just, it's a little bit distracting. So I have her moving her face a little bit. There we go. Start to move the hands. Love the engagement in these. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. That right there is what it's all about. That is the type of shot that just floors me. When as soon as I see it, it just gets me every single time. All right. What's the story? What is she laughing about? What's there? You can tell she's confident in her own skin. Here's your book jacket cover, like the inside blurb, the author bio. That is right there. Yeah, different compositions. Beautiful. Yep. Cool. Love the way that these are looking. So I'm actually going to stop there. It's 471 that we just looked at, right? So 471 photos. And the thing that I love about going through, that's about halfway. We don't have to go through the next 300. You get the point of what I'm trying to do. What I do from there is I say, okay, well, where are all the ones that I flagged? So if I come back in and I choose and I filter just by the ones that I flagged, let's see if I can get this to do it on Lightroom. I can then go back and here's a few more that I'd chosen yesterday just while I was flipping through them. These were starred and flagged on the phone, on the camera itself. Now I can go back and look at, the ones that I just culled. So I then take, let's say, these 7 or 8, and I can look at them in an array and say, all right, well, a couple of these look exactly like, which ones do I want to filter out? And then I'll go through a second round of culling, now being able to compare my favorites against each other, it allows me to do that second round of culling, which will then equate to what I show the client. So out of these 760 some odd photos that I shot yesterday, I'll probably get it down to about 76, which is what I'll show the client. My expectation is based on what we shot, based on her needs, is that we'll probably wind up right around 16 photos. And give or take a few here or there, but that tends to be my middle package, and anywhere between 16 and 20 photos, and that works out really, really well for everybody. So that's basically how I do my culling, my reveal, and how I go through my process of looking at images, going through, teaching people how to pose, what I'm looking for when I'm shooting, how I shoot from natural light to strobes, to natural light, to constant light, to back to strobes. There are so many ways to create variety for a client. There is no one correct way to do it. So what I try to do is not only keep myself interested, but keep the client interested in what I'm doing. By going through all those different setups. Now, do you have to go through the setup? God, no. Use natural light. Use one window. You can build an entire career off of using one window. I just have a shit ton of space and a lot of equipment, and I like to use it because I like to play, and I love to give people something different to look at. And never know where it's going to lead, especially if I start to show a client a look that they weren't expecting and they love it. Then I can hang out there all day. But by shooting different outfits on different backdrops and different lighting scenarios, it gives them the ability to look and really fine tune their own taste, which in turn helps me shoot better. So that's the way that I go about that. So that was culling and stuff. Exactly what I said I was going to be doing. So it's been about an hour. It's about all I wanted to spend on here. I'm glad you guys hung out. If you have any questions before I go, just pop them in the chat. I'm just kind of hanging out doing nothing. I'll probably, once I sign off of here, finish up the culling. We've already set our date for the reveal for next week. So we'll be able to go through all those images. I like to do things pretty quickly in about a week so that not only do I have a chance to decompress from the shoot, the client does as well. We can look at things with fresh eyes, but not have enough time in between that you lose interest or forget what you did. So I tend to, at the end of the shoot, sit down and say, all right, well, what's your calendar look like? Let's figure out the soonest time that we can both get together and look at these images again. So that's the way that I go about all of that. Any more questions in the chat? I'm looking around. Barry saying, I'm no expert. The lighting is good. I appreciate that. Let's see. Anything else? No, that was about it. Okay, cool. Well, if you guys enjoy this, let me know. Leave me a comment on YouTube or send me something on Facebook. And I like doing this type of stuff. As I do more shoots, I can go back through old shoots. I keep everything. So I can show how I go through the culling process, some of my favorite shoots. And that might be something to look at. So we can, go through, for example, a lot of people ask me about the Iceland shoot that I did. And I can go back to that Iceland shoot and take you through the entire session because people can't believe that I got a lot of that stuff in camera, but it just so happens like the sun shines on a dog's ass some days. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing more of these. I love doing this. I love taking it through. I love interacting with you guys. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns or ideas for what you want to see, let me know. I'm also recording new episodes of Generator. So be on the lookout for those sometime soon. I know it's been far too long. I did my last one with Parker, God, a couple of months ago, and life has just been crazy. So I'm getting back on the Generator horse. So I'll be churning out some new episodes of that soon. And then I'm also working on a course for all y'all. So that should be really exciting. I can't wait till that's released. So anyway, That's it. Thanks for hanging out with me all night. I will talk to you all soon. Thank you again for all of your support, for stopping by. And until next time, just be a good person. Talk to you later. Bye.